All right, we are live. We are talking fantasy football, waiver wire. If you saw, we posted a late stream from last night we had with our special guests Grant and Jake. Hopefully you caught that. If not, go back on our YouTube channel. Go find that. Click that subscribe and like to find when we post or go live with videos. Again, we are going live or we are coming out with new content every week for the fantasy football season. So be sure to join us every week for that for those videos with content of this today it's waiver wire because as always with Tuesdays, we've moved on from last week. Just like Bill Belichick said, we're on to Cincinnati. Now you may not be playing Cincinnati, but we are on to the next team the next week. We are making adjustments. We are adding players. We are doing what we need to make our fantasy football teams better. Don't make fantasy football hard. Don't overreact. We've discussed this already. Don't overreact from one week to the next. Yes, the Lions and the Seahawks this past week, they did incredibly well in the fantasy football output. If you had one of them, you are very happy with them. I had Jared Goff in one of my leagues, and I was very happy. Now, this is something to be remembering. Fantasy football, people like to make it hard in reacting. Oh, this guy did well. Don't think TJ Hawkinson's going to come out and score 40 points again next week. There's a lot of things that happened to cause this. One, they played the Seahawks. The Seahawks, I think this is more indicative of they are a good team to play tight ends against. This can be DFS related. This could be seasonal related. If you are streaming the position, if you're streaming tight end, you can go and play tight ends against the Seahawks. This is also a team related thing. Amon-Ra St. Brown was out. DJ Chark was out. It was Josh Reynolds. It was TJ Hawkinson and Jamal Williams, which we'll get to Jamal Williams in a sec. But don't make fantasy football hard. Also, don't overreact. If you have players on your team, understand, we've talked about this before, go to the data points. Understand, is this production sustainable, or is this production something that is not going to be sustainable? Is he getting inflated by lots of touchdowns or just random usage that's not going to be inflatable? Or not going to be predictable? That this is something that we need to go and make sure we're looking at. This is why we go beyond the stats. I'm going to do something different for this week's prep show. We now have 4 weeks of data, and that is enough to start looking at players against defenses, positions against defenses, to look at, is there a position that a certain defense gives up more points against or less? Are there positions that are better to start other players with versus not? So this is going to be another, to quote Shrek, peel the onion back, peel a layer back of our process so that you have more information. This is the key, to have the correct information. I can give you stats till I'm blue in the face, till your ears fall off and you're just done listening to me. But if it's stats that's usable, if it's stuff that makes sense, this is what is needed to help win leagues. So with that being said, I'm going to highlight some players that should already be in your fantasy roster. If it's not rostered in your league, you need to go get them. You need to go add them right now. It is Jamal Williams with the Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift, yes, it's not a season-ending injury, but Jamal Williams had value when Swift was playing. He has way more value with Swift out. If Swift continues to stay out, Jamal Williams is a player that you want to have on your roster. He is an RB2 with Swift out, and he potentially still is an RB2 with Swift in as well, with the upside of touchdowns. Khalil Herbert, I understand David Montgomery is probably going to come back, but Khalil Herbert could see a way into this role. Plus, as a running back that has an ankle and knee injury, David Montgomery might miss more time. He might not. It is I alluded to before, it is a contract year for him. He wants to get the most from his contract. So, but Khalil Herbert is still a guy that you want to have rostered in your league just in case. And lastly, it's still up in the air. Potentially, they say it's not, but it is. Jonathan Taylor might miss this Thursday game. Nyheim Hines should be rostered in your league. If he's not, that's the 1A to this backfield that you want to have. If Nyheim Hines is on the waiver wire, you should be adding them. These are the players that this should be your top priority if they are not already picked up. But with that, there are a few players to highlight that I think will help in your league. First one, we all heard the news. It was news that rang through the fantasy spheres. Javonte Williams has a torn ACL. I think it said ACL and PCL or MCL, whichever L, whatever it is. I'm not a doctor and I will not pretend to be a doctor here, okay? But that means he's out. And if you're a Denver Bronco fan, or if you're a Melvin Gordon fantasy, you roster Melvin Gordon on your fantasy team, Melvin Gordon has a fumbling issue. This is not something that's going to go away soon. This is not something that is going to be overlooked by coaches anytime soon. So, if you are interested in having a piece of this Denver Broncos backfield, you need to go get Mike Boone. Mike Boone, after Javonte Williams was out of the game, Melvin Gordon ran onto the field, but was soon called off before that play happened. And who replaced him? It was Mike Boone. Mike Boone is only rostered in 0.2% of leagues. So if you're in the very deepest of leagues, he's probably rostered, but he is most likely not already. The way the Denver Broncos have wanted to play this is they want to run and have success through running the ball first and then passing with Russell Wilson. That is how they are trying to win this year. Mike Boone is going to be a guy that they've already said in preseason they love him. They like what they see from his production. If Melvin Gordon continues having fumbling problems, Mike Boone is going to be the guy to replace him. I get it. They just signed Latavius Murray from the Saints practice squad. And Latavius Murray, let's be honest, he outdid Mark Ingram when they played the Vikings this past week in London. So that's a good sign for Latavius Murray, but I think that's a signing of depth. And it's also a signing more of a lack of trust for Melvin Gordon, not a replacement for Mike Boone. So Mike Boone, I would say, is your top priority add this week. Next is going to be a guy that I've highlighted before. I'm going to say it again because he's only rostered in 11.3% of leagues on ESPN, but it is Rachaad White. I get it. He also fumbled against Kansas City on the opening kickoff, but after that, he did get a touchdown, and he was in there for more snaps and more work, spelling Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette is in there and has logged multiple 80% snap and rush percentage this year. That could potentially, typically does, lead to injury. Again, not a doctor. Not going to say it will, but the likelihood is high. So you want the next guy up for a Tom Brady-led offense, and the Bucs are going to get better just because they just got blown out by Kansas City. There's a lot of factors there. This is going to be a good team. You want to lead back for them? Go get Rachaad White. If anything happens to Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White will be the guy. This is not a guy to start right away. This is a guy to hold and hold hard. Similar to how you were holding Herbert last year when Montgomery went down. Last one that I'm going to say for players to add is Tyler Algier for the Atlanta Falcons. Cordell Patterson went on IR, so meaning he will be out for 4 games minimum, meaning Tyler Algier is going to be the lead guy for Atlanta. Now, I'm not as excited about this simply because of the offense is not as good. If you are wanting good production, you want players that are on good offenses. Yes, I get it. There are some anomalies, and yes, I understand that you can have players that are not on good offenses produce for fantasy. I do understand that. But typically, the better players in fantasy football produce from the good offenses and are good players. So you get both of those, you get great value, great production. Tyler Algier is a good back if you're needing somebody coming up for bye weeks or you need some depth. If Tyler Algier, and he is only rostered in 16.9% of ESPN leagues, so he's out there in lots of leagues, he could be a guy to give that for you in the next few weeks and then take over the job if anything happens continually for Patterson. Don't forget, there is a muddled backfield too, potentially with Damian Williams too and Avery Williams with that backfield. But Tyler Algier looks to be stepping up and taking that backfield role in the lead back. I have one wide receiver to look at as a player to add. If he's not added in your league, you should add him right now. And he is out there, only rostered in 37% of ESPN leagues, but it's George Pickens. Pickens showed what he could do with Kenny Pickett. Now, going back to my thought process again, Pittsburgh is not a good offense. They face Buffalo this week. But you never know. And Pickens could be a guy that's a wide receiver 3. We have Garrett Wilson, who's producing as a Jet. We also have Drake London producing as a Falcon. So my comment of you can have good fantasy production from bad offenses of good players, you can still do that. Pickens could be one of those guys. Go pick him up if you need of wide receivers. Don't go get Jamal Agnew. Zay Jones was hurt. Okay. Jamal Agnew is going to be a third option at best for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Don't go chase points. Don't be chasing points. If you want to chase points, then that's how to lose. That's the best recipe to lose in fantasy football. There are some guys I want to highlight real quick. This is going to be a very quick episode for you guys. We do not need to spend very long on this. But these are speculative ads. Okay? Deion Jackson in Indy. If Jonathan Taylor goes out, you want the next guy up. And I already mentioned Nyheim Hines as he should already be rostered. But you want the speculation ad? Go with Deion Jackson. If you have a roster spot to hold one of these guys, go get him. That's the guy. If anything would happen to Jonathan Taylor, he's probably splitting the backfield with Nyheim Hines. I've mentioned this in previous shows already, but it's Eno Benjamin with the Arizona Cardinals. He is the guy. He is outrunning and outpacing Darrell Williams. He has that second back on this Arizona Cardinals team. James Conner is not healthy. James Conner is not producing like he did last year. James Conner could be overtaken if Eno Benjamin continues to play. This could become a split backfield. Go at Eno Benjamin. You're going to want him as the stretch goes down this year for fantasy football. I got a duo here. Lastly, that I'm going to highlight as, hey, speculatively add these before your league mates do. But it is Baltimore Ravens, Justice Hill. I get it. He strained or pulled or did something with his hamstring against Buffalo this past Sunday. And he is questionable coming into this week. And I know it's only Tuesday, but again, it's only Tuesday. And I'm not a doctor. Justice Hill has been the number 2 guy behind J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is getting healthier and will command more of that backfield. But having the backup is not a bad thing because there still is value because the Ravens are a run-first, run-often team. And Justice Hill was the guy that overtook that role as the backup to Dobbins and even was the lead before Dobbins came back. Justice Hill is the guy you want. But if for some reason you're really not sure, go grab Gus Edwards. Now, my caution with Edwards is he also is suffering from an ACL similar to what Dobbins was. But Edwards, that is, was so severe he had to be put on IR as far as he wasn't ready. He was not ready for that season. And the Baltimore Ravens had to put him on IR to get him more rest, to be able to get him healthy. So they might take it easy for a couple weeks with him as well. So it's a preemptive, and I'm going to add this as a potential, especially if something ends up happening with Justice Hill with hamstring. We hope not. We never hope for injury with players. These are professionals. They do great work. They prepare their bodies for collisions every week, week in and week out. So we hope nothing happens. But just in case, you be ready for it. This is how you prepare for the variance in fantasy football. You prep for what's going to happen or what could happen, because you know it could happen to one of your players too. Okay, that is all I have as far as players to add. Now, it is starting to be trade season. Don't get fleeced by trades. Don't look at just point production. Look beyond the stats. Go out, do some research. I'm going to start having some segments on this show, not today, but coming up, about trades, how I think about them, what I'm thinking about doing. I don't think like a lot of people do when it comes to trades. So when I do a trade, it does want to benefit me, but I'm also looking at how am I benefiting the team that I'm trading with. So that's going to be a hot topic coming up soon. Again, we're going to change up the game preview coming up on Friday. We will come out again on Friday with game preview. Again, it's not a start sit. It's not, do I start my guys that I should start? Absolutely start them. But we're going to look at some people, some players that we might like more or less. We're going to have some fun with this, and we're going to have topics. So prepare for your next week. Go get the guys that will help your team win in the next week and the weeks after, are prepared and add depth for potential injuries, because it could happen to any team. I hope it doesn't happen to yours, but it could. Let's prepare, and let's have fun with week 5 coming up in fantasy football season this year. We will catch you later.